Not Sony trying to get out of this with their hands clean. That's really funny. We need to talk about this article from The Hollywood Reporter because it's quite interesting and brings up some really good points. How Sony got trapped in the middle of the Lively versus Baldoni battle. The article says that Sony had agreed to market and release the film only, but somehow they ended up becoming the mediators between Lively and Baldoni. But what is so interesting, and they mention it here, is that back in August when Blake Lively was getting tons of backlash for the way she was promoting the movie, the chair CEO of Sony was praising Blake Lively for advancing the conversation around DV. Mind you, the only person who was mentioning DV during that press was Justin Baldoni. And ironically enough, the same day this article was published, August 14th, that is when Blake Lively decided to finally post about DV, but only on her Instagram story because I guess it wasn't good enough to be on her feed. So now it definitely seems that the Sony chair CEO Tony's highly unusual statement that he issued seemed like it was probably pushed by Blake Lively. And mind you, Sony did not mention Justin Baldoni. They did not praise him. Sony, which declined to comment for this story, appeared to have little choice but to make Lively its priority since she was vital to the film's marketing and release. However, Sony has not been named a party in any of the lawsuits thus far, but they are cited by both sides and face its executives being subpoenaed if the case goes to trial. And a big mystery to many is how did Blake Lively's cut become the final cut? We now know Baldoni's cut was rated much higher than Blake's, so why was Blake's the final cut? Let's not forget, Justin Baldoni even said he was not allowed to see the cut until the world premiere. Another mystery is Sony saying back in August to Variety that they had no HR complaints against Justin Baldoni. But then in Blake Lively's amended lawsuit, Blake states that she called Sony production executive Angie Giannetti to log concerns over unwelcome and inappropriate behavior by Baldoni and Wayfarer CEO Heath on set. She went on to cite several examples of feeling SH or uncomfortable. And while Blake Lively did include some text between herself and Angie Giannetti, none of them specifically said anything about SH. Angie had sent her this text on May 26th of 2023. And the text from Angie read, "I will say what I did want to review, discuss, feels very, very small in light of today's news. I'm so sorry." And in Blake's amended lawsuit, it says the conversation with Miss Giannetti on May 26 was about Blake Lively wanting to file an HR complaint about Baldoni and Heath. However, The Hollywood Reporter is saying otherwise. Sources close to the matter say that Lively did log several calls with Giannetti, but countered the nature of the May 26th. It involved Lively asking to file a complaint about on-set COVID protocols. Interesting. The Hollywood Reporter goes on to say that Angie Giannetti allegedly learned from third parties about the other two unnamed actresses and their complaints against Baldoni and Heath. And since Angie told Blake she would have to file it with Wayfarer, Blake oddly enough decided not to file a formal HR complaint with Wayfarer. Instead, November 2023 drafted a list of the 17 demands that Baldoni and Heath had signed. When shooting resumed in January of 2024 for about 6 more weeks, Lively said there were no more incidents. However, Todd Black, a producer of It Ends With Us, informed Baldoni in February that Lively wanted time in the editing room with him for 2 days. Highly unusual request for a producer. And we saw the text between herself and Baldoni, basically her telling him that she wanted to get in there like now, she didn't want to wait. She ended up getting her way, and instead of the 2 days, she was in there for 11 days by herself. Again, another mystery as to why that was allowed. And funny enough, Blake Lively calls the final cut of the movie the Sony cut, but Baldoni and Wayfarer contend otherwise. In their amended complaint, they state, in reality, Sony did not have a studio cut. Rather, Wayfarer and Sony shared a studio cut. Should the director's cut not perform well in audience screenings, the studios collectively held the right to recut the film. However, this never occurred, as Lively used her promotional efforts to secure the final cut. And by now, we've all heard that Blake Lively basically threatened Sony and said, if you don't use my cut, I will not promote this movie. Maybe Sony should have actually listened to Blake, then she would have never gotten all the backlash, because the backlash started from the way she promoted the film. But Blake will still sit here and say it's actually a smear campaign that Justin Baldoni and his publicist planned. In Baldoni's amended complaint, a Sony marketing executive told Wayfarer that Lively was refusing to sign off on a trailer unless Wayfarer, whom she was not speaking with, would exempt her from signing long overdue paperwork that would have rendered her threats to not promote the movie meaningless. And Sony was particularly concerned that Lively would change her mind about reaching out to best friend Taylor Swift to secure the release of My Tears Ricochet for the trailer. But when Heath originally did not agree with this, Sony was frustrated and told him good luck promoting and marketing the film. And basically told him just finish with the director cut, then we'll see which one rates higher and we go with that. Then Wayfarer agreed. However, Blake and Sony lied. They did not keep true to their word that they would release the best performing cut because Blake's was released and it performed worse. Let's not forget that Sony told Baldoni that Team Lively would not allow him at their premiere. A settlement was negotiated and he walked the carpet before Lively arrived. We all know he was thrown in the basement. Hey Sony, I get that you don't really want to be involved in the lawsuits, but you were definitely involved. Like, they need to be definitely subpoenaed.
Because what, we're psychotic and we're checking your filings every day, and we said, oh look, yeah, she's filing for more protection to protect, she thinks it's confidential documents. We just read through this, we showed the public, that's what you're doing. So I don't understand why I got name checked here. And then just to say, predictably, the media outlets picked up the same narrative. They're like, they got me out here looking like Regina George when she cuts her shirt. And then everybody just starts cutting their shirts. It's like, no, I'm just telling the truth. And I don't understand what your problem is with me other than the fact that I am under your skin. I'm so excited. I'm under their skin. Blake and Ryan are watching. You know what's going to happen? I want to be very clear, guys. You know where we're headed? I can see us barreling toward this future. I am going to be put not just in the Deadpool movies, but all over that next Taylor Swift album. You guys are going to be Easter egg hunting. She's going to have songs about me. She's going to be like, nothing rhymes with kombucha. Yeah, there's going to be a whole song, and teenagers are going to be singing in the air. You took this. He's not even your cousin. Nothing rhymes with kombucha. I'm excited. And I'm going to go to the concert. I told you my little girl, she likes Taylor Swift music, and I am bopping to London Boy Forever. But the point of the fact of the matter of everything that is going on is no. Okay, I'm not Judge Lehman. I'm not Brian Friedman. I'm not Justin Baldoni. I'm not Wilkie Farr Gallagher. But I am the public jury, lawyers, both parties. I have to be able to make a decision on my own show, and I'm telling you that we are not accepting this. Okay, I want the Taylor Swift text messages. I deserve the Taylor Swift text messages. Okay, I've worked incredibly hard for the Taylor Swift text messages. Years, okay? Okay, not years, but like everyone can see that I have made a real effort. And now that you have name checked me and I'm under your skin, I'm going to be there for a very long time. I'm not going to let go. I'm like a pit bull, okay? I'm on to you. I see what's happening. And you're just throwing me in here for trying to make people think that I'm somehow connected to Brian Freeman when I'm not. But it will be in the future, okay? That's my brother from another mother. And you're messing with my cousin. And I'm pregnant, okay? I'm feeling like Suge Knight yesterday. You guys lucky you didn't run into me yesterday. There would have been problems in these streets. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic. Now onto a much nicer topic, Preborn. I love them. They sponsor this show. You know, we have so much in part of the pro-life movement that we do to kind of conquer Planned Parenthood, spending so many millions to target what we deem to be vulnerable women, convincing them that the abortion pill is a quick, easy solution. But what actually happens afterwards is that there's so much devastation that follows. Women feel pain, they feel regret, and they sometimes really come to terms quickly with the reality that they have ended a life. And that's why Preborn is stepping in through innovative technology. They are reaching abortion-determined women before they take that pill, before it's too late. In fact, to date, Preborn's network of clinics has rescued over 300,000 lives, and they have seen over 90,000 women come to Christ. And it does not stop there. Preborn's network of clinics are with these moms every step of the way. They offer counseling, maternity supplies, and the support that they need to choose life, and they cannot do this without us. So I always ask that you give $28, provides an ultrasound to a woman in a crisis. That is it. It's $28, and it helps her see her baby and choose life instead. So to donate, just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or you can donate securely at preborn.com/Candace. That's preborn.com/Candace. Also reminding you guys of home title lock for you guys who are homeowners, because there is a scam going on. They can literally steal your home right out from under you. The FBI calls it house stealing, and it's a growing real estate scam that targets American homeowners. And here's how it works. Criminals can forge your signature on one document. They use a fake notary stamp. They pay a small fee, and they file it with your local recorder's office. And just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. So let me ask you, when was the last time that you even checked your home title? If you're like me, the answer is probably never, and that's exactly what these scammers are counting on, and that's why I trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. With Home Title Lock, you'll get immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud should happen, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. And here's the best part. I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so that you can find out if you're already a victim and access your personal title expert. A $250 value just for signing up. So go to HomeTitleLock.com and use promo code Candace250, or click on the link in the description. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code Candace250 to get the protection and peace of mind that you deserve. Okay, guys, this also was going viral, and it's like fun. It's just funny and weird. People are just being weird now. I know what happens. People go down to DC, we get these people into office, and they just start getting weird. And one person who's gotten a little strange is Dan Crenshaw. So we should discuss him all together, because I think
she did what every entitled Hollywood diva does. She sued. Yep, she slapped a $250 million lawsuit on Justin, thinking she could silence him and make the world feel sorry for her.
I had anxiety because I'm not feeling like my full self, and yet I came today despite, no sleep and not feeling great and, all of the barriers.
But big mistake, huge mistake, because Justin did not hold back. He fired back with a brutal $400 million countersuit, and let me tell you, that's when things got real messy. In his interview, Baldoni completely obliterated her fake Hollywood persona, and the things he said, brutal. He straight up called out her dictatorship behavior, how she forced script rewrites, and this is the best part, how she literally demanded Final Cut approval. Final Cut approval. Like she's Martin Scorsese all of a sudden. This is an actress who was hired to act, yet she was out here forcing her way into director-level decisions like she funded the entire movie.
She wrested his movie away from him and decided to try to hurt him with petty, made-up, out-of-context complaints when he pushed back even in the mildest way.
And then, at the film premiere, Blake pulled the ultimate power move. She banned Justin from properly attending his own damn event. You heard that right. The man who actually put years into making this movie happen was forced to stay in a basement while Blake strutted around like she was some Hollywood queen.
That Justin Baldoni, ultimately, by the time they got to the premiere, was mandated by Blake Lively to spend the night in the basement away from his co-stars and didn't even get to see the final cut of his own movie because Blake Lively insisted that she be the one to approve it until he watched it on the screen with his editors.
Is going to get subpoenaed, and she is going to be deposed, and she is up first. They want her first. They have heard the public pleas, and essentially we're going to get it. We are finally going to get what we want. And this is a very, very, very big deal, and I'll tell you why. First and foremost, with my non-legal expertise, as I have said from the very beginning, smartest possible move for Justin Baldoni's team to make. I've said depose her. I wasn't sure they were going to do it because Brian Friedman was asked about it by Harvey Levin on TMZ, and he said, well, we don't know. We'll see which way this case goes. And I'm going, what do you mean you don't know? That would be like the very first thing I would do. I would depose Taylor Swift against Blake Lively because first and foremost, no matter how you feel about Taylor Swift, you have to recognize and respect the fact that she is a machine, okay? She is an absolute machine. She will do everything to protect her image. In other words, Blake and Ryan will wind up fighting a real dragon, okay? A real dragon that has an army of teenagers that are behind her. And it is my professional opinion that she was very much involved. She was involved in this circumstance, and that currently her team is lying to the public. I kept saying they are clearly lying to the public and trying to signal Justin Baldoni's team, like, look, we have nothing to do with this. We're not friends with her anymore. We don't even like her. We don't even know her. We can't believe she said this. They were running articles. She feels used. She feels abused. They claimed to TMZ in one article that she only met Justin once, and it was briefly, and essentially she was startled because the meeting was supposed to be over at Blake's apartment, and then she arrived and Justin Baldoni was there, and then they painted this narrative like Taylor was just really nice, and because she thought this is Blake's boss and she was being really kind, had a brief discussion and never spoke to him again. And we just know objectively that that is not true, okay? We know objectively that is not true because both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, despite this contentious fight, have agreed on the fact that Taylor Swift was involved in this film, okay? They just have agreed on that without knowing that this fight was coming, when everything was all good in the hood and Blake Lively was using her name. So I'm gonna jog your memory just so you understand how many points she's involved in, how many times she could be subject to having to answer questions about maybe giving text messages pertaining to, first and foremost, the casting.
Lively and Ryan Reynolds are desperately trying to shut it down when it comes to anyone, you, me, anyone out in the media discussing this case. Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, who are clearly a team in this, are now essentially trying to hide under a rock and let all of this dust settle and stop anyone talking about this. As we've seen, any new information that comes forward is like debunked in the court of public opinion very quickly. And people kind of go after it and they're like, whoa, 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 that doesn't sound right. The Jenny Slate thing, her complaint was not at all about it was a bizarre complaint, but it also had nothing to do with Justin Baldoni. So now they want to choose what can be talked about in the public and be very strategic about it. And Baldoni's team is like, no, like, we want it all out there. We're an open book. We've been an open book from the beginning. Blake Lively started this with the New York Times article and obviously was very quickly proven from the, he's barging into my trailer while I'm breastfeeding. And then we find out, well, actually he was invited in, all these things. They don't want any more of this discussion happening in the media because they're just getting torn apart by it. So that's essentially what the AEO, the attorney's eyes only, and Baldoni's team is like, no, like that's not what this is for. Like, attorney's eyes only is like heightened privacy on things that are very, very confidential. McDonald's is in a lawsuit and they're like, we do not want anyone knowing what our secret is to the quarter-pound burger, which is delicious, by the way. That's for attorney's eyes only. Extremely proprietary information we can't have in the public. That's not what this is. Ryan and Blake just want to stop the bleeding.
I'm obsessed with all the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni stuff, okay? Praise to the people that do the investigative work and tell us all about it. I am eating it up. Eating it up, okay? The thing. This trial is for next year, 2026. I cannot take for a whole year more Blake Lively going out and about, SNL, parties here, fashion here, Ryan making jokes about this whole situation. I cannot take that for a whole year. And I also can't take more receipts. I can't do this for a whole year. Like, already go to trial because I can't do this. I cannot do this. It's taking my life.
Something happened this weekend that proves that Blake Lively is totally lying about this lawsuit. I think this one thing proves that Blake Lively is lying about this whole thing, and I'm going to tell you what it is. No, it's not Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively appearing at the SNL 50 making jokes about it, though that is also sus. It's Brandon Sklenar interview with Gayle King, which, side note, I used to live near Gayle King, and we used to go grocery shopping together. He said, "It Ends With Us" has turned into this huge thing. Like, where do you stand with it? He had just finished doing like a bunch of press, and this is the first time I'm hearing this. He said, well, I just think the messaging is so important. I have a friend who's going through the same thing, and like, I just want us to remember the importance of this film. Okay, that is a really compelling answer that he should have said in the press tour, but suddenly he's focusing on the messaging and the importance of the messaging. Fine, it was a good answer. But here's where he revealed the truth behind this situation. Gayle said, okay, Team Justin or Team Blake, which his response was, and then he said, Team Ends With Us. If this is real, and he really believes the messaging of It Ends With Us, DV and all of that, and his co-star is suing the director for serious allegations, would you laugh? Wouldn't you be like, that's a really sensitive subject. I don't really want to weigh in on. No, he laughed, which shows how he feels about it. And you may say, oh, he doesn't know, like he wasn't present. I think he knows. I think he was pressured to stay quiet in the beginning, and he's figured out how to answer in a political way. But to me, this answer says everything, right? Like, this was the dead giveaway, don't you think?
There's a text exchange between Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan, and Jennifer Abel says, Blake and Ryan want Justin to put out a statement. This is unbelievable. Melissa Nathan says, call me if you can. This will be a career killer for them and Wayfair. They have to fight it. Jennifer says, this is so crazy. Melissa says they have to lawyer up now. Honestly, I've never had anything like it. Can we please hire him a lawyer? Jennifer says he needs to. He has one, but he needs a litigator. And then Melissa Nathan says, get Brian Friedman. He's waiting and will also take on WME. I mean, Brian Friedman is incredible. I mean, yeah, his whole strategy throughout this PR nightmare and legal drama has been crazy. I mean, even just the fact that the website was launched prior to the judge's order to, you know, not have either side speak about things was so smart. An attorney really is almost like a police officer. It's like someone when you are in dire need and one of the worst things that could ever happen to you is about to happen to you. That is someone who is an officer of the court or an officer of the law who can literally protect you. And that is what Brian Friedman says he wants. That is his purpose. Right. It's to vindicate Justin in the eyes of the public and get him justice. And getting an incredible attorney who can take on a behemoth like WME. Yeah. That is what Justin needed. And I'm sorry, but Brian Friedman, this has been a masterclass in defending a client.
Yeah, and I think mobilizing evidence and getting it into the hands of the public so that they can make their own conclusions, which they clearly
are terrified right now in the entertainment industry. My name is Carrie Schwartz. I've been speaking a lot on this case in Blake Lively because I am an author. My book is called Series of Unfortunate Men, and I'm currently in the process of adapting it into a TV show. Being a person who has worked in the entertainment world for 18 plus years. I've worked with some of your favorite celebrities, some of your favorite actors, hosts, etc., influencers, you name it, I've been there. Men in this industry are terrified and sometimes have to walk on eggshells because they feel like women will find an excuse to sue them at any chance that they get, that they can go to HR, and if someone looks at them the wrong way, they can say that there's harassment. And in some cases they are, but in other cases they aren't. I've had so many experiences with very big executive producers. Now, before I even wrote my book, I was a script writer and I was developing shows and decks and things in that nature. So a lot of times I would build a relationship with these people that I met on set, and I would, you know, approach them, ask for their email and say, hey, I would love for you to look at my script. You would meet up in person, and 99.9% of the time, they would ask for an exchange, an inappropriate exchange. Like straight up. I was talking to The Rock's right-hand man for a decent amount of time, almost a year actually. This is nothing against The Rock. This has nothing to do with him. This has to do with his right-hand man. This person basically led me on to believe that he was interested in me. I was very naive. And I remember asking him to help me with some of my scripts and things like that. And I was like, listen, if you think they suck, like, please just tell me. I'm open to, you know, critique. He was like, no. Like, you just have to understand from my perspective, you know, if I help you with any of these projects, it could backfire on me later. And I'm like, how so? And he's like, well, you know, we've exchanged some videos and text messages that are pretty sexual. And I'm like, well, we're dating, we're talking. So what does that matter? He was so worried that I would come at him and threaten his career or do something to hurt him because we had a sexual relationship and he worked with The Rock. I think there's such an important conversation that is being missed. Yes, Justin Baldoni, I think, is the victim here. Blake knows the cost of making these allegations. You know, this is his first big movie, his first big opportunity with film, and that's why he allowed her to have so much power and was so generous with her thoughts and her opinions, even probably felt threatened by her. So that is not okay. This industry is filled with snakes and sharks, and I hope I never have to deal with any of these issues or these kinds of people. God bless.
The latest episode of
What the fuck?
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' latest subpoena is insane, laughable. They are asking for all calls, texts, data, and real-time location information for Justin Baldoni, everyone at Wayfair, and his PR team for the last 2.5 years. So Brian Freeman, his attorney, is like, you're insane, fuck you. Way too broad, narrow it. What are you looking for? And they said, okay, fine. We don't want the data or the real-time location information, but we want all the calls and texts. And by the way, we don't want the information contained therein. We just want to show the communication. Well, here's the kicker. They're not looking for information just between that group. They are looking for every call or text they sent out or received from anyone. Imagine your calls and texts over the last 2.5 years, to and from your parents, your significant other, your hookups, your gynecologist, your pharmacist, it's anybody who watches any Law and Order knows that's not how discovery works. Like, you need to be looking for something. They're just hoping to cast a wide enough net and hope that within all that information, there'll be something that they can use in court. At this point, they must be calling the shots. I think their attorney's probably just like, yeah, whatever, you guys are fucking crazy. Because I can't imagine an attorney would draft a subpoena so laughable. He's probably just like, whatever.
Who is Todd Black, and why should Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds be scared if he's willing to testify? Todd is an Oscar-nominated producer and allegedly quit It Ends With Us production because of Ryan and Blake's inappropriate behavior. The incident occurred at Ryan and Blake's penthouse during the infamous all-hands-on meeting. Lively and Baldoni later present different portraits of this meeting in both of their lawsuits. In Lively's lawsuit, she said the parties discussed a list of 20 examples and behaviors that gave rise to the protections for return to production document. She also stated that all men agreed such behaviors would no longer take place. But in Baldoni's lawsuit, he claims Ryan Reynolds berated him during this meeting. Now remember, Todd Black was also there. And he also stated Lively's suit misleadingly suggests that parties agreed to a list of 30 items during the meeting, many of the items which were entirely new, baseless, and never presented or discussed. Baldoni also stated in his lawsuit that one of the film's producers who was present said that in his 40-year career, he had never seen anyone speak to someone like that in a meeting. Now, sources are saying Todd Black actually quit the movie after this meeting because he didn't want to deal with the drama. But Sony begged him to come back and gave him 3 times his salary. And what's even funnier, Lively was allegedly the one that hired him to begin with. I couldn't find any more pictures with him with the cast or Justin Baldoni. So it looks like he was just trying to get his bag and get out of the drama as soon as possible. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you're new here, I'm Nambi, giving you my hot takes on all the trending news, so be sure to hit that follow button.